Welcome to ETF Edge, your go-to place for all things exchange-traded funds. I'm your host, Dominic Chu. Mutual fund and long-term investing heavyweight Baron Capital is launching 5 new actively managed ETFs today. So joining me now, fresh off ringing the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange, are Ron Baron and Michael Baron from Baron Capital. Gentlemen, thank you both for being with us here on ETF Edge. We appreciate the time.
Thanks for inviting us.
All right, so maybe we'll start with the news, gentlemen, first. And Michael, I'll turn to you for that. 5 new ETFs, actively managed, but they're not typically what we think of as actively managed in terms of maybe some of the levered funds that are out there, defined outcome. These are actively managed from a portfolio perspective based upon your fundamental views of the portfolio companies. So why ETFs for Baron Capital?
Sure. There's a lot there. Let's unpack that. In terms of why ETFs, nothing at Baron Capital is changing in terms of our investment philosophy or investment process. This is purely an extension of what we've been doing in terms of managing commingled portfolios for growth equity investors. We've become known as the preeminent growth equity manager based on our performance over the past 43 years. But we have a mission in terms of changing lives for our clients. And in order to do that, we need to expand beyond a singular focus on the mutual fund. We've spent the past year and a half, 2 years, really understanding ETFs, understanding if we can deliver our investment philosophy and process in that wrapper. And today I'm excited to say we feel that we can and have. Clients know us, they like us, they want to utilize us. But there were things that were missing, whether it be about operational efficiency, tax efficiency, transparency, and intraday liquidity. And we feel that we can offer our same investment philosophy and process in this wrapper and deliver on those various factors.
Now, Ron, same was the key word that I kind of got there from Michael's response. These ETFs are not different than what you guys have always done with your core portfolios, right?
Same process.
Same process. So take us through why or what the investing philosophy is for you guys and why it translates well into both the mutual fund and an ETF format.
Well, Michael talked about how we're trying to change people's lives. That's the mission we have. The mission is not to make as much money as we can, as fast as we can, and go do something else. We love what we do. It's almost a hobby. I guess it is a hobby. So all the things we do are based upon being long-term investors in businesses. That's how we have chosen to change lives. And we have actually been successful, that our record is the best of any mutual fund company in the United States. So 97, 98% of our assets beat the market, 60% are in the top 5% of funds, and Baron Partners Fund is the #1 fund in the United States since 2003. And so the reason for that is that we made $57 billion in profits so far. And I think that over the next, starting with $100 million in 1992, and we're hoping that we can make 5 times that over the next 10 years.
Again, if you take a look at the track record, it's one of the reasons why people are attracted to the Baron Capital type products. Ron, I guess maybe the follow-up to that is, do you feel as though the investment philosophy that you've evolved over the course of the last few decades still maintains that same kind of momentum power in terms of investing for the future? And how exactly have you evolved your investing philosophy over the years to identify the star companies of then, and then more recently, some of the star companies like Tesla and SpaceX these days?
Well, we're investing in what companies are going to become, not what they are at this moment in time. And so we have to, if you want to rely upon other people's advice, you will never outperform. You'll be the same as everyone else. And so what we do is we do our own research. We have 212 people at Baron Capital, 45 are analysts and portfolio managers. Portfolio manager actually senior analysts. And what we do is we visit companies every day. Companies come to visit us every day. We talk to them every evening, every morning, every day. And we try to learn about their businesses. What I've described it as is that we take a company and we rip it apart in our heads and we try to understand and then put it back together again. And we try to find out and understand about what it is that makes that company distinct and different than others and gives it an advantage that other people can't duplicate. For example, in SpaceX, that what they distinguishes them, and they're about to go public, and again in, I guess in next June is my guess. And what's different about SpaceX is they've been able to have a rocket that can use over and over and over again. No one else has been able to do that. So other people would use a rocket one time, it could cost $100 million. Right now it costs us maybe $10 million to get to space. It will cost us very soon $1 million. It's Elon thinks it's going to cost less to go to space than it will to go from New York to London. So it's an amazing revolution, and nobody can catch us. So because of that low cost to space, what that has enabled is to have 10,000 satellites providing Starlink services to every inch of this planet. So basically, you can now get broadband anywhere because of Starlink. NetJets, I've been trying to get NetJets to use Starlink for 5 years, and they had to get this regulation. They had to, but basically, the head of NetJets sent me a note, I guess 2 or 3 days ago, and said because of I've been doing this 5 years. Because of you and several others, we're now installing NetJets on our planes, on 600 planes, 50 a month, and we would go places, and you would lose communications. You can't do it on NetJets. When you have a Starlink, you'll be able to do this everywhere. So one business that has distinguished us in Starlink, in SpaceX, is Starlink. 10,000 satellites, going to be much more. There's 8 billion people on the planet. 3 billion don't have the internet. We're going to give it to them. That's number one. Number two, they've just announced fairly recently that we're now going to go and build data centers in space. All you read about now is data centers, how expensive they are, 3 or 4 or 5 years to build, cost several $1 billion, $4 or $5 billion to build, and shortage of energy, shortage of land, permitting. And what we're going to do now is we're going to put them in space. So now cooling is a huge cost. Put them in space, no more cooling costs. Put them in space, no more electricity costs. So basically, you're running it for power for free and cooling for free, which are enormous expenses. And one of the companies that we've invested in as well, another Elon company, is XAI. And what they're going to do is use these satellites that they have, this network, going to be 1 million satellites. 1 million. Now we have 10,000. So now it's going to be 1 million for providing this data center in space. And XAI is going to be a main beneficiary of that to provide services like ChatGPT, but better.
Now, Michael, all of these investing ideas come about because of a rigorous research process. And you guys are fundamental stock pickers. I mean, that's a generic term. But in essence, what you do is you do a good amount of analysis. You have teams of research analysts and portfolio managers trying to hunt for these opportunities. How exactly does the research methodology at Baron Capital lead you to some of these things? As somebody who's learned from Ron and who's progressed through the ranks, through the analyst stage, and through to where you are right now, what exactly then do you look for in terms of what makes a good investment?
Yeah, there's a lot that makes a good investment. And what's different, it's what makes a good investment to Baron Capital. We have a team of around 45 investment professionals constantly searching for what is a Baron Capital type investment. What's a Baron Capital type investment in not just technology and growth, where people assume, but what makes a Baron Capital investment in financials and in healthcare and real estate. We want to have a diverse portfolio and different ideas, really understanding these different companies. Like he was mentioning, tearing them down to their essence and rebuilding them, making sure they make sense, having different points of view, asking different types of questions. Understanding who the management teams are, what makes them, where they've had successes in the past, where they've had failures in the past, where their motivations are in the future, and then packaging it together to construct a portfolio that we can now deliver in an ETF. You were asking earlier, what makes these different than other ETFs out there? There's a ton of ETFs. There are now more ETFs today than in publicly traded companies. How does this stand out? We feel that there's been this mismatch. There's been not enough of true fundamental stock pickers, people that build foundational portfolios for long-term investors. And that's what we're trying to deliver by finding these research ideas, packaging them in the portfolio, and now structuring it in an ETF format.
You mentioned, Ron, people. It's a continuing theme among many of the investments that you have engaged in over the years. People is an important aspect because people are the ones with the ideas, people are the ones implementing these types of business models and plans. What exactly is the secret for you on finding the people that you think are the ones that you want to invest in?
You're trying to judge people's intellect, passion, leadership skills, knowledge about industries, unique ownership of a business. We want to be in the same boat that they're in, and thinking about the individuals who are running those businesses, whether they are running them to benefit themselves or to benefit all the investors as well as society in general. So we're trying to understand the personalities. Where do they live? Where do their children go to school? Do they work? What's their lifestyle like? How long have people been tenured at their business? How come? So we're trying to understand all the different aspects about how business operates and what are the weaknesses and strengths, and be very thoughtful about, nothing straight up. And when you see things that are straight up, and it's the same increase every quarter from a year ago, what most likely you found is a scam. And so what we're trying to find are companies with open-ended opportunities. I was writing in one of my quarterly reports that Cliff Greenberg and I had a client a long time ago. It was Fred Stein, and he used to talk about dimension as one element that separated out one business from another. You can say the same thing for individuals, but there's something special about him that you can just say, boy, that's someone who I would like to bet on. That's someone who I trust. That's someone who I believe is going to run a business in the best interest of the executives who work at that company and individuals who work at that company, as well as for the society they're serving with the products and services they offer.